Hello and welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks and I'm joined by the Biden to my Harris. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Oh, Justin, I cannot believe, right? The Euros was just over a week ago. It genuinely feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like when the Euros is on, time moves incredibly slowly. But then as soon as it finishes, it's like a week feels like a month. It's incredible how time changes. It's like a black hole. You know, Einstein couldn't work this one out.
No, I don't think he could. It also feels like, if you think that's surprising, then the Switzerland game, which we won on penalties, that was 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, which is even more mind-blowing to me because I don't know what the next up is from a lifetime ago, but it just feels like ages ago, Justin. It really does. And that's why
millennium.
I'm just... Yeah, it does. It feels like everything has just moved on at the speed of light. It's crazy.
It has, but you know, it means we're talking about the championship, and that's what's happened. You know, time has moved incredibly slowly during the Euros, which means time's sped up for the bloody league season coming in.
You better believe it, and that's why we're counting down to the new season, Justin. Welcome to the #1 Championship podcast, the Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This is, of course, part 2 of us ranking all the managers in the Championship based on how much we would want them at our club. Part 1 came out on Thursday, where we revealed 24th to 13th. Make sure you go and listen to that episode first before listening to this one, where we're revealing 12th to first. So a quick reminder that we made this list the same way we make all our lists around here. Justin makes one, I make one, and then we merge it together to make one big list. We ranked all the managers here based on how much we would want them at our club. A really crucial point that bears repeating for when our DMs start getting full of people complaining. And that's how we're ranking the managers here in this list. So without further ado, we may as well jump straight into it, Justin. Who have we got 12th in this big old list of managers in the Championship?
We've got Ryan Lowe of Preston. I think Ryan Lowe is as steady as you get. He's so middle of the road, so I think 12 probably about right. And to his credit as well, you look back on previous seasons, he's guided North End to 13th, 12th and 10th. So actually being 12th is probably, as I say, perfect for him. And that's all done without making too much noise transfer-wise as well. They haven't had a huge turnover in players during his tenure, which I think is all the more impressive. He does get flack at times, but... if you're looking for a manager who's going to steady the ship and get you looking in the right direction, Ryan Lowe is that man.
Yeah, I find it increasingly difficult to assess Ryan Lowe at Preston. They finished 10th last season, had a good flirt with the playoffs. Always felt unlikely they would get there, but had a good flirt nonetheless. They weren't the most impressive team to watch. They created the second lowest XG last season, only better than Rotherham. Their form was also incredibly streaky. I'm not sure there would have been any other team who featured at the very top and very bottom of the form table more than Preston last season. But Ryan Lowe's at Preston, where there isn't a huge amount of resources, and Justin is simply working with the hand he's been dealt. And as you mentioned, 13th, then 12th, then 10th. He's making progress.
There is progress. It's steady progress. It is very, very steady, isn't it? It is on the M1 doing 58 miles per hour. You're getting there slowly. But it's efficient. There's no danger.
Yeah.
You're getting to where you need to go.
I think 58 is quite generous, Justin. I think you're looking more at 50 and you're being overtaken by lorries.
Well, 50 is quite dangerous on the M1, isn't it? Because you've got to go a bit quicker to make it safe for everybody else. But
it is with your driving.
I would. Anyway, going back to Ryan Lowe, I think he's built some really solid foundations at Preston, and I think I wouldn't say the ownership's holding him back, because the ownership's doing what it needs to do to ensure that the club doesn't spend way beyond its means. But it would be interesting to see what he can do with a slightly increased budget. I do think the business they have done so far by adding Stefan Thordarson is quite intriguing, and it does show a bit more of an intent to add to the attacking ranks of that team. So it'd be nice to see what Ryan Lowe can do with that. Obviously, if they finish mid-table again, then maybe we can start to ask questions whether or not this side's going anywhere with him. But I think if you're Preston and you're flirting with the playoffs almost every season with the budget they've got, you take it. And that means I would take Ryan Lowe, ahead of 12 other managers in this league.
Yeah, they're having a flirt, aren't they? never really genuinely looked like getting there, but they're still having a flirt. You can't blame them for trying. Yeah, and while other managers have managed to pull off extraordinary things with similar resources to Preston, I don't think that should be counted against Ryan Lowe, because it's still an incredibly difficult thing to do working with the budget that he's got. And Preston have started to slightly loosen the purse strings in recent seasons, but still, he's not got as big a budget as basically all the teams who finished above Preston last season, has he? And you know what? Say what you want about Ryan Lowe, but he is making progress. That's slow, but it's progress nonetheless. I would also agree with you, Justin. I'd be very interested to see how he would do with a bigger budget. But without knowing that, you've got to say he's doing a very good job with what he's got at Preston. Let's go on to 11th in this list, and it's a new boy to the Championship. It's John Mousinho at Portsmouth. It's the man who ended Portsmouth's long absence from the top two divisions of English football. They said it would never happen, but here we are. To do it is an incredible achievement. And to do it the way they did was even more incredible. They were top of League One in September and didn't look back. They were top of the league from September all the way to the end of the season, bar 2 weeks in November. Getting your team top of the league is hard enough, but keeping them there as well as they did is really impressive. Just 5 losses all season. Only 2 sides in League One history have lost fewer games than that in a season. Just a sublime achievement, Justin.
Yeah, it really is an incredible achievement. There have been more experienced managers than John Mousinho have come into Fratton Park and not delivered. They haven't. You know, Kenny Jackett, who's almost a seasoned specialist at getting teams out of League One, struggled. I think, with that in mind, it gives you an idea, especially as a young coach as well, 34 years old. He was registered as a player as recently as sort of 2022, 2023. And that just goes to show his trajectory as a coach. I think as well as that, he defines what this list is about. It's a clear example of what this list is. It's not about who the best, worst manager is in the league. It's impossible to decide that objectively. It's down to who we want in charge of our club, which is a very subjective thing. And I think Mousinho fits that bill because he's worked with young players at Portsmouth. He's had to mould a squad into what he wants. He's had to transition a squad as well from previous managers like Kenny Jackett, for example, who's very direct. He's had to transition that and work with what he's got to an extent. And as I say, developing young players. Abu Kamara on loan from Norwich was brilliant. Alex Robinson on loan from Man City before his injury was fantastic as well. There's a lot to like about John Mousinho, and I think it's one of those managers, maybe like Kieran McKenna last season, not to the same extent, but he's similar criteria in that he'll probably go under the radar in terms of people really wanting to take notice of him.
Yeah, well, he seems like a great man manager, very switched on tactically. We can't put him much higher in this list because he's still quite new to management. This is his first job and he only got it in January last year. Plus, we get to see him at Championship level. I'm also of the opinion that it was quite a weak League One last season. However, I don't think that should take anything away from the achievement of finally getting Portsmouth out of League One. And to do that is very impressive. So that's why there's plenty of reasons to be excited about Portsmouth with John Mousinho at the helm. So very excited to see how they go on this season. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a controversial one up next. Of course, we made these rankings by Justin and I making separate lists and merging them into one. Well, this was the manager we had the greatest disparity over. Who is it, Justin?
It's John Eustace of Blackburn. Now, I'm just interested to know where you put him in your list, and I'll tell you where I put him in mine. 10th place,
I should say. He's 10th place in the list. I had him kind of mid-table, lower mid-table area, whereas you had him
8th.
Around 9th. So not much of a disparity, but still a disparity nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm so high on John Eustace. I like him a hell of a lot. I know a lot of people who probably won't look at things in a little, as much detail as us, rightly so, and say that he scraped keeping Blackburn in the Championship last season on the final day. It's not really the case. He managed 8 draws in 15 games, which, it's not exactly astonishing. But he stopped that team from losing. And he righted the wrongs that seeped in under John Dahl Thomason. They were conceding goals left, right, and centre. they were so weak defensively, out of shape. Defensively as well was really poor. John Eustace came in, got them organised. He sorted every single issue they had under Thomason and got them hard to beat, which is what you need to do when you're fighting relegation. He plays to team strengths, and any club wanting to progress, I think will do really well with John Eustace in charge, and he deserves a chance. He deserves a chance at a club without nightmarish owners. Now, Blackburn do sort of have that at the moment with trouble with Venky's, but probably less so than what he had with Birmingham before the takeover last season.
Yeah, to be fair, going back to our list, we had similar positions for most managers on this list, so it's not a massive drama that we had a bit of disparity with Eustace. There was just a slightly bigger disparity than the rest, I suppose. I was still quite surprised when I saw you had him ahead of a handful of managers who I think a lot of potential. I see Eustace as a safe pair of hands, someone who can steady a ship and leave a club in a better place than where he found it. He did that at Birmingham and looks like he's on course to be doing that at Blackburn. That's a very desirable quality in a manager. Would I expect him to achieve any more than that? Not sure, but still, that's still a very good quality to have as a manager, I think.
I think that's a bit harsh because I don't think he's had the chance to do that. Because what the annoying thing is, the clearest example we were going to get for John Eustace taking a team further was last season when he was sacked with Birmingham just outside the playoffs. Or were they in the playoffs? I can't quite remember.
They were in the playoffs. However, Justin, if John Eustace were to have lasted the season, do you really think they would have finished in now? I don't think so.
No, but I would have been very confident of them finishing in the top half at the very least, which I think is remarkable progress from where that club was the summer they had last year in terms of the upheaval, the change in players and personnel, and therefore I do think John Eustace deserves a chance at a club who, are settled behind the scenes. He probably isn't going to get that this season with Blackburn, but he's going to do a damn good job in trying to guide the club outside of a relegation fight. And that's why I think it's a bit harsh to label him a manager who's just going to steady the ship, because I don't think we've quite seen what he's capable of. And this is the first season we're going to do it. And because of what I've seen so far of him, I really, really like him, and I'm very excited to see what he can do.
Hey, I said steady the ship and leave them in a better place than where they left them. I don't think that's a criticism at all. I think you're taking it completely the wrong way. I like John Eustace as a bloke. I think he's a top bloke. Seems like a really nice guy as well as a really good manager. I just won't go as far in my praise as I would do as you, Justin. Let's go on to 9th, where we have a new manager from abroad, Justin. It's Norwich City's new gaffer, Johannes Hoff Thorup. It's a new manager to the Championship, so you always have to approach that with a bit of caution, but I'm allowing myself to get a bit excited with Thorup, and I'll tell you why. Norwich have a new sporting director, Ben Napper, almost immediately after David Wagner was sacked. Thorup was identified as the man he wanted to take over at the helm. That shows me he had caught the eye and has been on the radar for a while. And you can see why that is based off what I've read. He'd been getting rave reviews for the job he did at Nordsjælland in Denmark. They finished 9th the season before he was appointed and came 2nd in his first full season. Plays exciting attacking football with young players. And I mentioned this not long ago. They beat Fenerbahce 6-1 last November in the Europa Conference League. And 9 of the starting 11 were academy graduates. That's exciting. So Norwich want this to be the start of a new era, and they identified Thorup as the man to lead that new era, and they moved quickly to get him in. And that's really exciting for me, because it seems like there's a plan, and they wanted Thorup to be the man who headed up that plan. Okay,
the question I'll ask is, are the circumstances surrounding his appointment maybe putting a little bit of fog in what he is actually like as a manager? Potentially, I think first thing I will say as well is he's Liam Manning, but with a solid hairline. That's the first thing I'll
does
point
look
out.
A lot like Liam Manning, doesn't
It's quite frightening. The weird thing is Liam Manning's from Norwich as well, so yeah. There's clearly no relation there, but there's a lovely link. But I think the circumstances surrounding the appointment, i.e. the speed in which he was appointed, and maybe the hype around him might be getting in the way of your decision a little bit.
Well, I'm not sure that's true, Justin. I think, based off what I've read about him, I've read up on the other 2 new managers who we've got from abroad, and it's quite difficult to say. And I'm still approaching this with an air of scepticism.
Yeah.
But the fact that there seems to be a plan at Norwich now, when there didn't seem to be one when Stuart Webber, the old sporting director, was near the end of his days. That's exciting for me. And the fact that they decided, look, we've got a plan now, let's get this guy in, let's move quickly. That shows to me that they have clearly seen something in him, and I'm willing to put my faith in the new sporting director at Norwich and see how this one goes.
Okay, no, I mean, it's fair. I mean, you put your blind faith in Kieran McKenna, you stuck by it, and that paid off very, very well for you. So maybe this is along the same lines. I am super intrigued. I'm not criticising the appointment, nor am I pulling it down. I had him a little bit lower. I had him 12th, so I'm a little bit more tempered in my desire to want him to manage my team, if you like. I did read that his preferred method of play is playing it out from the back. The thing that frightens me is Grant Hanley and Shane Duffy playing it out from the back. Now, there might well be additional signings coming in for players who are very comfortable at playing that style of play. I know Jose Cordoba came in, but he's a Panamanian international, not too sure what his capabilities are yet without seeing him. He might be able to do that very, very efficiently, or at least better than Grant Hanley and Shane Duffy. So I think the interesting thing there will be to see how he adapts to those defenders if nobody else comes in. And that's where you can start to maybe make a few more cleaner judgments on Thorup. And we can call him the Hoff as well. That's a big plus. That's quite... I'm down for that. Let's do that. The Hoff. Yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
I've just completely disregarded everything I've just said, which I thought was quite eloquent, and just gone, we could call him the Hoff.
Yeah, well, we can call him the Hoff, Justin, and I think only time will tell with the Hoff. I mean, that's always going to be the case when you've got a new manager coming in from abroad. Who really knows? But if you're basing it purely on, that's what we're exactly doing with this list. We're basing it purely on what we've learnt about him so far. It seems exciting, and that's why I'm willing to lose myself slightly in the excitement without getting too carried away with the Hoff just yet. Justin, we've got a manager up next in number 8 who we literally just mentioned because he looks exactly like Johannes Hoff Thorup.
Yes, it's a big giveaway. It's obviously Liam Manning because nobody else looks like the Hoff other than Liam Manning in this division. For me, Liam Manning is a managerial lasagna. Hear me out.
Okay.
Lasagna's not as good when it's fresh. Stick it in the fridge for a day or two and I think it improves tenfold. And I will die on that hill. Debate me however you want. Lasagna tastes better 2 days after you've made it. And I think Liam Manning gets better if you give him a little time. Not too much time like wine. Wine takes years to age. I'm talking few months. He'll make a bumpy start, but he will get your team playing. His Oxford start was bumpy before essentially getting him the points last season. That got them promoted, as we mentioned in the previous episode when we discussed Des Buckingham. Start to last season with Bristol City was again bumpy before delivering the highest finish since 2019. So for me, Liam Manning, managerial lasagna, gets better after 2 days in the fridge.
You know what, Justin? I get you. I get you. I also agree. I think lasagna does taste better 2 days afterwards because you need to let it marinate. And I feel like we're starting to get to the stage where Liam Manning has marinated at Ashton Gate, and now it's time to see if the taste is better than it was. Because you're right, he may not have pulled up a forest load of trees in his time at Bristol City so far, but this is the season where we can really judge him, and there's reason to be excited. At MK Dons, he did such an amazing job, and that's why he was getting linked with loads of championship clubs. Didn't go too well in his second season there, but I think that was more down to the club than him.
The club, yeah.
Yes, it's MK Dons. We all know that they can be a bit temperamental at times. Then he did very well at Oxford at the start of last season, winning 10 from their first 15. And he did all this while playing the best football in League One. He's an extremely progressive, forward-thinking manager, and Bristol City are going to be a great watch next season. I'm excited for them. We did say not too long ago that Bristol City are probably the biggest or the darkest horse that there is in the Championship heading into next season, and a large part of that is down to the Liam Manning being at the helm, isn't it, Justin?
It absolutely is, and I mean, maybe it would be the case if Nigel Pearson was still in charge, but I think what Liam Manning has done is he's really tapped into a bit more of an aggressive front foot football. Okay, it's not perfect yet, but I think it's still gonna improve, and I think with additional signings coming in, things again are going to keep getting better. I've mentioned it several times in previous episodes since the summer, since the end of last season. Max Bird's coming in, who's a very good number 8, very good on the ball, and I think he's going to add a little bit more composure in that midfield. They've made a couple of other signings. Like Tommy Conway's sort of been reserved to the under-21s, and he probably will be sold at some point. But that gives them license to go out and recruit another forward, which I think Bristol City absolutely need, because I think that's one thing that's been holding them back for a while. And I'm going to make the point as well that I think Bristol City have become unfashionable in recent years. It might come across as a bit of a criticism, and it might be a bit of a criticism at Nigel Pearson, but they've been a bit meat and two veg. Now they're a bloody lasagna. And let's see what they can do.
Now they're a lasagna with layers. They've got all the layers, mate, and that's what we like to see. Going back to Manning, also great record with working with young players. He's credited with developing Declan Rice in particular and many other youngsters at West Ham when he was a youth coach there. Still only 38, which feels weird because it seems like he's been around for a long old time now. So still surprising that he's not even tipped 40 yet. But some Bristol City fans don't seem completely convinced about him. Many were saying they may as well have kept Nigel Pearson. But I think it's time to be excited about the future with Lee Manning in charge, because all evidence suggests that this season he's going to make them step up a new gear, and that's exciting, isn't it? Let's go to 7th on our list. It's Marti Cifuentes from QPR. Now, QPR were a right old mess before the Marti party arrived. They were only kept off the bottom of the table by Sheffield Wednesday, and they looked as if they were on a one-way course for relegation. But Cifuentes came in and changed things substantially, particularly at the back. Only Leeds conceded fewer goals than QPR from the point Marti was appointed, and they also won the 9th most points, which is just remarkable, isn't it, considering how dreadful they were under that silly goth Gareth Ainsworth. He completely transformed things at Loftus Road, and that's why it's intriguing to see if it continues into next season, Justin.
Yeah, Gareth Ainsworth taking shots still a year after being QPR manager, which seems harsh. Look,
I think it is.
The Marti party is up and running. It really is. He's got me doing the salsa, drinking sangria. I love Marti Cifuentes. I've had a Scandinavian reporter in my DMs pretty much every other week telling me or asking me what's going on with Marti Cifuentes, because Cifuentes has been linked with so many different clubs over the summer. But I think QPR keeping hold of him, I think is a huge thing. And I think as well as that, probably speaks of a bigger project potentially going on at QPR. I've seen some of the links with players as well that really, really excite me. But there's a defensive solidity there that he had to establish with a bit of a Catalan quality and style as well. They were fast, they were direct, they were counter-attacking. And I think Cifuentes had to play that way because he had to transition it from what Gareth Ainsworth was trying to put together. Don't know what it was, but we saw Wayne Rooney try and change things very quickly at Birmingham City, and it got up in his face. So I think that speaks of a very intelligent, in-touch manager with his players in Cifuentes, and I think that, again, that speaks of a wider intelligence and a wider quality of what he can really bring to QPR. Scored a lot from set pieces as well, which again I think it was a very smart thing, because that made up for the lack of technical quality in that team. I'm so excited about what Cifuentes can achieve, and I wouldn't expect him to be in the Championship for much longer. Whether he delivers promotion with QPR or not, or he gets poached by a bigger club, who knows?
Yeah, well, if he continues the work that he's done so far, he's going to continue attracting interest, isn't he? And it's no surprise that he did attract the interest that he did, because when you did as good a job as he did last season, that's always going to happen. There's still reasons not to get completely carried away. They weren't the best going forwards at times, despite some of the creative talent in the QPR team. They also hit a bit of a slump around Christmas time, which was a bit concerning, but they managed to get past it and stay up in the end. Overall, though, you'd fancy QPR to keep going in the right direction again under Cifuentes, and that's something I'm really excited to see more of heading into next season. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll reveal our top 6 managers who we would want in charge of our club in the Championship. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. It's our top 6 managers in our rankings of each Championship manager based on how much we would want them at our club. We've done 24 to 7th. So let's go on to 6th, Justin. Who have we got here?
Danny Rohl, a Sheffield Wednesday. Look, before talking about football, let's talk about the man himself. He is a brilliant, brilliant man. He's made you, me, and every single Sheffield Wednesday fan forget about Dave Chansiri. Now, if anyone,
going.
yeah, if you can succeed at taking our focus away from Chansiri, who's a fucking nightmare, and actually divert our attention away and put it back on the football, I think that is a remarkable, huge achievement. Aside from keeping Wednesday in the Championship last season, making us forget about Chansiri again is another one. Danny Rohl is a lovely rainbow in front of a nightmarish ownership. And again, going to the football, that winners run of 13 games at the start of last season, just 3 points, and delivering safety. Wednesday should have been relegated. He should have been relegated, and then Danny Rohl said, "No, not on my watch, sunshine. Not happening." I think he said that. And I paraphrase.
Yeah, it sounded something like that. But that's the exact reason why, if it wasn't for Kieran McKenna, Danny Rohl would have cruised last season's manager of the season, because Sheffield Wednesday was so dead in the water, and getting them back to dry land was nothing short of a minor miracle. As you say, 3 points won from the first 11 games before he came in, and they would go on to win 50 from 35 after, the 9th most in the division from that point onwards. It's an insane turnaround, and keep in mind, this is a 35-year-old coach doing this in his first managerial job. It's crazy, and that's always going to attract a lot of admirers. So Wednesday holding on to him this summer, absolutely massive. He not only turned things around on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. You're quite right, Justin. He's doing a great job of us forgetting that there's a madman at the helm of the club. But the mood is completely transformed at Hillsborough, and it's all because of Danny Rohl. No one else, completely because of Danny Rohl. There's a reason to be excited with him in charge, because his potential is limitless.
It really is. I mean, we can talk about his playing philosophy and his quality as a coach. I mean, he's been with the Germany national setup. He's been at big clubs as well. But actually, you mentioned his age, 35 years old. He's such a positive leader. He's so positive in how he speaks. When you compare his presses to Isco's, my goodness, Isco made me question football. He made me think. He made me wonder: do I want to talk about football for a living? It made me sad. Danny Rohl gets me pumped up. He gets me excited, and I'm excited about Wednesday this season. I'm excited about what they can do, and I'm excited about Danny Rohl and the progress he can bloody make. Come on, Danny.
Yeah. Second youngest manager in the division next season, and as we say, only 35, but despite that, he's got a lot of coaching experience, having worked with the likes of Hansi Flick in Germany, with the German national team, Ralf Hasenhüttl as well. The main reason he's not higher in this list is because we're going off a 9-month spell, but it wouldn't surprise me if he makes us regret not going a bit further with him, because he just seems to be the sky's the limit kind of coach, doesn't he? Let's go on to 5th in our list. It's Middlesbrough's Michael Carrick. Now, the season before last, Michael Carrick looked like he could be the next big thing in management. A fantastic season with Middlesbrough, where he took them from the edge of the relegation zone and nearly got them automatically promoted. It was an insane turnaround. Now, fast forward a year later, he's coming off the back of a season which was perhaps slightly underwhelming, but there were other factors at play here. Losing an incredible amount of talent, the likes of Chuba Akpom, Cameron Archer, Aaron Ramsey. And despite all this, despite losing all that talent, they still only finished 4 points off the top 6. It didn't really look like getting in the top 6 for large parts of the season, but overall, an 8th place finish isn't too bad. So with that being said, I'm still excited by Michael Carrick as a manager. The stock may not be as high as it was this time last year, Justin, but I think he can still show what he's all about this season.
Oh, without doubt. I think Michael Carrick was one of the easier ones to place, because it was just a case of putting him in the top 6 and just seeing where we put him in the top 6. He was always going to be in a top 6 position of, for me, in terms of managers I want in my football club. And as you say, I think there's a lot of untapped quality in Carrick. He had to deal with that level a lot. You mentioned a couple of things. There's a big upheaval in quality in transfers. Lucas Engel replacing Ryan Giles, not a natural transition because of how good Ryan Giles was the season before last. Chukwuemeka, a lot of goals from Cameron. There's a lot of quality missing from that Borough squad that needed to be changed, and Michael Carrick did deal with it. And I think if you look at the stats a little bit deeper in the stats, they were still creating a hell of a lot of chances. They just weren't clinical, and unfortunately, it took Emmanuel Ate-Laf until sort of the last third of the season to really get going as a goal scorer. But Michael Carrick's system, his style of play, his man management was still there. It was still getting a lot out of that team, and I think that's why Carrick's places so highly for me. I think another thing as well is tactically he had to deal with a lot last season. Sorry, not tactically. From a personnel point of view, a lot of injuries to his defence, and they didn't crumble. They didn't crumble. They were still chipping away at things, still putting together runs of results. Wasn't always pretty, but he still delivered a respectable finish given the circumstances he had to face.
Yeah, he didn't get much back in either last season as well. As we said, he lost a lot of players, didn't really see much return in terms of the transfer business that he was given. But also got to keep in mind, plays some of the best football in the league. His teams play some of the best football in the league. It's great to watch, and it seems like last season was a building block towards this season being the one. So that's why it's an exciting season ahead for Middlesbrough, particularly with Michael Carrick, as we all know, big name in the footballing world because of what he did in his playing career, but he looks like he's got the pedigree to still be a top manager. Justin, who have we got fourth in this list?
It's Daniel Farke of Leeds. Listen, let's get it out of the way. Leeds bottled it last season. That doesn't make Daniel Farke a bad manager. After the playoff final last season, there was a guy speaking with great humility and grace, and again, that goes a long way for me. He recognised some of the mistakes they were making as a team, some of the injuries they were having as well. And I think if you consider that post-international break meltdown from March onwards, before that, Leeds were marching to the automatics. I think injuries and fitness caught up with the squad. And I don't think Daniel Farke trusted certain individuals within the group to deliver, either hence the consistency and lack of rotation in the starting 11. But there's a manager there who's romped to championship titles in 2 of his 4 seasons. And again, if you ignore the meltdown, they would have got promoted automatically out of Cantor. That's an if button, maybe. Doesn't exist. But it doesn't mean Daniel Farke is a bad manager as a result of that. And it is a reason why I would still love him in charge of my football club.
Yeah, I don't agree with bottling, Justin. I don't think that's right. We have got to keep in mind that they finished third with the highest points tally ever for a team who didn't get automatically promoted, and it was arguably the strongest promotion race we've ever seen. There's no denying his record at this level. It is sublime, and 2 promotions, as you say. He's undoubtedly one of the greatest championship managers of all time. I think that all explains itself. The reason I didn't put him higher in my list is because of the question marks, such as the drop-off at the end of last season. Leeds were in pole position to win the league, and they really messed it up. Don't want to say bottling, but 4 points from your final available 18 is shocking, whichever way you look at it. And tying into that, they also showed up for just 1 game in the playoffs. So that's not great. Keep in mind that this is also one of the most talented teams we've ever had at this level. Doesn't make for good reading. And that also feeds into the general inconsistency shown by Leeds over the season. Yes, they did the league double over both Leicester and Ipswich, but they also did the league double over just one of the bottom 10 last season. So he's got to prove this season that he's learnt from his mistakes and is as good a manager as he was. Otherwise, with the added emphasis of Red Bull now investing in Leeds United, he'll be out of job. It's as simple as that, Justin.
Yeah, there's more pressure on him going into this season than, well, probably last season. I mean, he was freshly appointed last season, but there certainly is a lot of pressure. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with the potential outgoings. How does he adapt his style of play? Will recruitment come in and allow him to, achieve what he wants to do? Because I think even with the players he had last season, it probably wasn't a natural Daniel Farke group of players to fit his system. But what he still achieved and how they still attacked is interesting. But you are right. Maybe I'm too hot on him. Maybe I'm too excited by him. Maybe I'm too drawn in by what he has achieved in the past. Because I had him second in my own personal list, and maybe I'm getting a little bit too carried away with what I know Daniel Farke can deliver, and actually ignoring the discrepancies of last season. I don't know, Ryan. Tell me I'm wrong.
I didn't have him as high as you. I think a lot of that is down to the potential of the managers ahead, perhaps. I also have taken into account his record in the Premier League, because if I was a side like Leeds who want to be back in the top flight, would I want a manager in there whose record is appalling at that level, just in case we did get there? Not for me. So that knocks him down the list a bit more for me. I say potential, but I've just realised who's next in the list. But that's by the by. In terms of what he can deliver, we know he can deliver a promotion, because we've seen that twice already, and probably should have happened last season. But still, I still have reservations somewhat with Daniel Farke, and I think all those reservations could easily be wiped away after 10, 20 games of this season. So I'm not losing my head just yet with him, Justin.
Yeah, there absolutely is reasons to have faith in Daniel Farke because of what he has achieved with Norwich in the past, what he's done at Acanto with Norwich in the past, and how he steadied the ship even with Leeds last season and got a group of players believing in a philosophy to attack. And as well as that, he had a lot of unrest, shall we say, a lot of unsettled things behind the scenes, a lot of players outgoing. He had to deal with a lot, and he still delivered an incredible point tally that in however many other seasons would have got him automatically promoted. So can count himself unlucky. And what you've done is just reconvinced me that I am actually right to be absolutely hot on Daniel Farke.
No, that's fair, Justin. I think also one thing we haven't mentioned, which you kind of hinted at there, is the number of players who went out the door last summer was ridiculous. So him managing to eventually get things on track with Leeds and turn them into a promotion-chasing side deserves a lot of credit. Let's go to third in our list. It's Mark Robins of Coventry. The job Mark Robins is doing at this club is and continues to be one of the most impressive in the country. For me, it also is and continues to be one of the most underrated, because League Two to the edge of the Premier League, how many managers have done that with one club? Not many. Yet it doesn't seem to get talked about nearly enough for my liking, but that's by the by. But there's a reason why the man's a legend at Coventry. The journey that he's taken the club on is remarkable, and I don't think you can rule out him taking them all the way next season. So I'm very excited. And it's only right at this stage that we now head over to the president of the Mark Robins fan club.
Fucking love Mark Robins. Oh.
Official statement from the Mark Robins fan club. Just those words. Fucking love Mark Robins.
That's it. Who's number two, Ryan? That's it. Honestly, though, Mark Robins, you pointed out perfectly. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for what he's achieved with Coventry City. A lot gets spoken about Luton. I'm not going to dampen Luton's achievements over recent years. They have had an incredible rise, but so too have Coventry. They've gone from being a League Two club to, as you pointed out, they're at the steps of the Premier League, aren't they, Coventry? They are looking up that very, very long route. 150 steps. It's a steep old slope, but a long old walk as well. But Coventry are there. Not many clubs have even got to that point yet. And Mark Robins has delivered that. He has delivered that, and he's done so on a tight budget. He's done so. I mean, I just repeat what I said last season. I find I might be doing that, but he's done all of this, dealing with everything off the scenes, behind the scenes. Ownership issues, small budget, ground problems, a small squad. This guy's just achieved the incredible, remarkable, feat of getting this club literally on the doorstep of the Premier League. That is incredible. Coventry should be nowhere near it. With what they've had to deal with, they should be nowhere near it because of Mark Robins, because of smart recruitment and good decision making. They are nearly there.
Yeah, spot on. He's transformed the club, hasn't he, more than any other coach possibly ever has done at this level. And they've been so well coached over the years under Robins, and that's why they've got to where they are. He's got quite an impressive list of players who have massively benefited from working under him as well. Victor Gyökeres, Ian Martson, Ben Sheaf, Gustavo Hamer.
Just jumping in there. Victor Gyökeres and Ian Martson are one of Europe's top 2 assets at the moment.
Exactly.
They both played under Mark Robins. It's astonishing.
Yeah. I mean, Gyökeres, his career would not be where it is now if it wasn't for Mark Robins. And this list that we've just embarked on there, it's only getting bigger and bigger. And that's why it's so ridiculously underrated, the job that he's doing there, as well as, the small matter of taking Coventry from League 2 to the edge of the Premier League. If you're looking for reasons why he isn't top of the list, you could point to the slow starts from the last 2 seasons for Coventry. The first one was a bit explainable with the whole pitch fiasco, which we won't get into. Last season's just happened. So hopefully we don't see another slow start to this season. Another thing that you could throw at him is, would he be as successful at another club other than Coventry? Who really knows? But the fact of the matter is, when you look at the job that he's done, it's just astonishing. And there's no sign of this journey Coventry are on under Mark Robins from stopping anytime soon. And you can't rule them out making that big step next season, Justin.
I don't want to rule it out. I do want to rule it out because I want Mark Robins forever. I want Mark Robins in the Championship forever. It's very selfish, and I apologise to Coventry City fans, but that's how I'm going to roll with this one. Mark Robins, if he goes, I don't know what I'll do with myself.
Yeah, well, the president of the Mark Robins fan club will be questioning his position, won't he? But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Coventry over the years under Mark Robins, and hopefully this season may be the one where they finally realise their potential. Justin, let's get on to our top 2. Who have we got second in this list?
It's handsome Rob Edwards of Luton Town. I think, firstly, fair play to Rob Edwards for getting that Luton team promoted, because he did that with Nathan Jones's team, didn't he? It wasn't his side. He took over sort of quarter way through the season and delivered a dream of an end to what has been an incredible run of consecutive years. I think their sole Premier League campaign was admirable. I think there are huge improvements that needed to be made, but Rob Edwards still is a rookie manager. Let's bear this in mind. This is his 3rd full season as a head coach. So for him to be able to, his 4th full season as a head coach. For him to be able to, I'm forgetting that Forest Green season where they won the league. For him to be able to, take charge of a club that is now got a lot of expectation behind it, I think tells of what he's capable of as a manager. And I think as well, purely on a human level, he's excellent. He just gets it. His players love him. That's why the fans love him, and that's why we love him. And I think the Rob Edwards era at Luton Town has barely got going. There's so much more to come.
Yeah, I agree with that, Justin. You're right. He did take over the project at Luton seamlessly and has helped them live the dream. The thing that often gets forgotten is that it wasn't just a case of him just assuming what Nathan Jones had done. He had taken everyone at Luton to a new level. They scored more goals, they conceded fewer goals, they won more points, and he just gave them that extra pizzazz and did amazingly in getting them promoted. And despite being tipped to do nothing in the Premier League, they surprised so many people and gave an excellent showing of themselves, even though they didn't manage to stay up in the end. But look, he recognises the team's strengths and is just so on it tactically. They're ready to adapt to defending against whoever they're facing. He's an excellent manager and has helped so many players get their game to a new level. And Luton, it's all about working harder than the other team. And you're only going to be able to do that if you're motivated as a player, and Rob Edwards has clearly got that down to a T, and he's continued to put emphasis on the togetherness at Luton, which means they're fighting for each other. With him in charge, Luton Town are a side to fear next season, aren't they?
They really are. And again, I think it speaks of him as a manager. Just his emotion surrounding the Tom Lockyer situation as well. I know we rarely see managers have that outpouring of emotion that Rob Edwards did, and that's just what he's like as a human. I think that's why we get so attached to. Well, Luton fans will get so attached to him. It's why I think we like him from our point of view as well, because he's tactically there, his management's there, but also there's a very deep empathy with him, with the players. And I mentioned it when we introduced him. He's handsome as well. He had the non-footballing world swooning over him on TikTok and Twitter last season, which I think again is a significant achievement, because football managers don't get a lot of love like that.
Yeah, he might be second on our list. He's definitely top when it comes to the most handsome manager, though, isn't he? But I get everything that you say there, Justin. It's no surprise that when Kieran McKenna was getting linked with a move away from Ipswich, they were reportedly considering Rob Edwards as McKenna's replacement. And when you're at a very smart club when it comes to identifying talent, and you've got another very smart club eyeing you up, you must be doing something right. So keep in mind, that Luton have in the past been a team who have been punching above their weight. Now that they have got the added injection of Premier League money and just all-round better talent, it's an exciting season in terms of seeing whether they can bounce back at the first time of asking. But I think if you asked every single Luton fan, they would tell you we would not want anyone else at the helm other than Rob Edwards, would they?
Exactly. I think that's the most impressive thing, is that Rob Edwards has trenched himself so deep into that Luton Town philosophy, despite being there less time than Nathan Jones, considerably less time than Nathan Jones. But that's probably just how he is as a personality. And let's make no mistake about it, and let's not get too carried away either. Luton Town aren't a big football club in the grand scheme of the size of football clubs. They're still not going to have the biggest budget in the Championship next season. They're still going to have to cut the cloth accordingly. And Rob Edwards has still got to steer around that. And I would back him to do it. He's given me a lot of evidence that he's going to do it. And that's why the football club's going to cling on to him as much as they can.
Top of our list, the number one manager we would want in charge of our football club out of every manager in the Championship. It's West Bromwich Albion's Carlos Corberan. There's a reason why he's known as King Carlos, and he's the king of our managerial rankings for this coming season. And here's the reason why. At Huddersfield, he pulled off an astonishing feat in getting a club with one of the lowest budgets in the league to third in the table and a playoff final, which they may have won if people running VAR didn't have a nap on that day. And since then, he's gone to West Brom, a club with all sorts of problems. Barely made a signing last summer, actually had a weakened squad heading into last season than the season before. And they finished fifth, when expectations were probably the lowest they've been at West Brom in quite some time. Carlos Corberan still managed to achieve a fifth place finish. And the thing is as well, they were in the playoffs from November onwards. Didn't fall out at any point. That's incredible, isn't it? And that consistency just shows how on it Carlos Corberan is. This is a manager who's done two remarkable jobs at two clubs, have had all sorts of issues. It is astonishing, Justin.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up a point there. Is I think West Brom, probably in January, February time, were the only club that we knew, or sort of would know that they would finish in the playoffs, because obviously Leeds and Southampton were gunning for the automatics, and there was a merry-go-round of teams chasing sixth, and West Brom were just sat in fifth, as comfortable as you can possibly be. And it's like, yeah, they're the only team we know are going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season. But look, Carlos Corberan, master tactician. I think he's yet to have a season in management under normal circumstances. Just a normal football club, just having a normal team, a normal football club with normal things going on behind the scenes. There's a tight budget and ownership issues at Huddersfield Town, the owner and takeover problems with West Brom, and he still delivered two top six finishes for those clubs. It's just incredible. Huddersfield finished third in the season they got to the playoffs. And you mentioned the VAR, if people were awake, Huddersfield could have been a Premier League club, and things and history would have been completely different. But for me, his stock just gets higher and higher, and it'll be great to see what he can do with a little bit of licence to actually build a squad of his own. You look what he did last season with the players he had at his disposal. Cedric Kipre became one of the best centre-backs in the division. Grady Dean Garner found some positive consistency, and Alex Mowat showed us why he's universally loved by everybody outside of the clubs he's plays for. he's done all of that while wrestling with the potential of West Brom last season disappearing from the face of the earth. The pressure that must have had on him as a footballer, in charge of football things, that would have been massive, and he's still delivered, and that's why he's bloody loved.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that he's not had a season in normal circumstances yet. This may very well be the season now that West Brom have a takeover said and done. And I agree with everything you say there, Justin. He's a tactical mastermind. He's got this great flexibility for adapting to whoever they're playing. And it means they're able to go toe-to-toe with the best in the division. And we saw that multiple times last season. Concede very few goals as well. They are so tight at the back. And it was only really the last few games of the season which really let down their defensive record. Because up to that point, they were arguably the best defensive side in the whole of the Championship. But his man management is also top class, as you mentioned there, with him getting the best out of so many players at West Brom last season, whose best days were seemingly well behind them. He ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't he? A hell of a lot of boxes. And I'm fancying West Brom to be a promotion contender next season. A part of that is down to the new ownership and their ambition. Another part of it is down to the experience and talent in this squad. But the vast majority of that, is down to Carlos Corberan being a top-class manager.
Do you think he would still be in the Championship now if he had a normal football club? Because in my opinion, if he had a normal football club, he'd have taken them higher and higher and higher, and the jobs he would have got from that would have been higher and higher. Because I know he had his spell at Olympiacos, but Olympiacos was a powder keg. He probably took that job a little bit too soon. But a normal club, faster trajectory.
Well, Justin, dare I say something quite controversial here? You remember when Leeds got relegated? If they went with Carlos Corberan, I think they'd be in the Premier League right now. I honestly do. Because, I mean, look what he's achieved so far with the tools that he's had. Huddersfield and West Brom, expectations have been low there, but that's purely because the squads that he's had to work with, the hand that he's been dealt, hasn't been great. If he was working with the likes of bloody Crescencio Somerville, Jorginho Ruta, Ethan Ampadu, Joe Rodon, etc., then we're talking a whole different kettle of fish here, I think.
I think we would, and it's not a bit of shade on Daniel Farke either. But you are right. I think Corberan's probably a little bit more flexible than a lot of the coaches currently in the Championship, and that's why he's so high on our list. To what he can achieve, what he has the potential to achieve, I think is far greater than many of the managers we've probably seen in the Championship in recent years.
Yeah, he's a Bielsa disciple, isn't he? And you can see the similarities here with him. And he was also being linked with the Leicester job over the summer, and it wouldn't surprise me if he gets linked with even more jobs in the Premier League as the season progresses, because if I was a Premier League club looking to the Championship for a manager, I'd certainly be picking between Carlos Corberan or Rob Edwards, one of the two, because they just seem both so tactically switched on. And both could be overseeing promotion seasons with their club over the coming season. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. This has been our 24 to 1s in our ranking of all the managers in the Championship, based on how much we would want them at our club. If you've enjoyed it, then please give us a 5-star review on whichever podcast platform you listen to us on. Helps us grow as a podcast, and with it being the new season, also, puts out the message to other listeners out there who are big Championship fans as well, possibly looking for a new podcast to listen to this coming season. You may as well recommend no one else other than the second tier heading into the new season. So it's not long now, ladies and gentlemen, until the new season is underway. We'll be back on Thursday, where we'll each be picking a key player for every Championship side ahead of the new season. So we bloody look forward to seeing you then for that. And then, Justin, it's not long until we've got to make some bloody predictions. Christ alive, I'm looking forward to it. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.